Hello everyone. Welcome to Art Town Podcast Series or ATPS as we like to call it. Every week on Friday we feature art and design professionals who take us through their journey in this fascinating world of art. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook and Spotify, and with that let's continue with the show and dive deep into the ocean of art. Today we have with us an amazing visual storyteller, Debjyoti Saha. He has done masters in animation film design from National Institute of Design. Currently, he is an associate producer and animator at ESPN India. Apart from developing content for sports and digital media, he is very much fond of creating comics. And this is going to be our major focus in today's conversation. The satire and humor with which he addresses even the most serious socio-political issues is exceptional. His recent series of comics based on Korona have been appreciated widely. So let's move into our conversation and know more about the art of storytelling. Hi Debjyoti, it's our pleasure to have you today, and Art Town is so glad to proceed with our conversation. Before we talk about your work and go into the depths of art, I would like to ask you, how are you and how has the COVID-19 situation treated you?
First of all, thanks for having me. This has been a pleasure being on this podcast. And I think by this time we have all kind of coped up with the new normal, I guess.
Yeah.
It's been quite a while. I think we started on March,
Mm-hmm.
and first couple of months have been rough in terms of work, in terms of coping up with life, kind of changing the entire cycle of
Yeah.
how, and also our thought process has kind of changed due to what was happening around us. Apart from that, I guess I've been coping up quite good lately. It's been fun. Not to and obviously, we're just hoping for the day we kind of get the vaccine or kind of
Yeah.
get the herd immunity. It's gonna be one of the two.
Yeah. Yeah. Great to know that, and I hope that you
Yeah,
and your family are safe
yeah,
wherever you are.
absolutely, absolutely.
So, talking about your work, I would be really interesting to know what made you inclined towards the art field at the first place, and how did you decide to take it up as a profession?
Right. I think as a child, you're quite inclined towards the visual arts and arts in general.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of run away from studies and you kind of find your comfort zone in the art field, especially.
Yeah,
You kind of doodle, you kind of scribble, you kind of draw, you kind of read comics, you kind of run around, play physical activities, you dance, you make music. All of these are kind of escapades from the daily routine of life, the mundaneness of
yeah,
life, I guess. And then you kind of get used to. So as a child, you kind of become very creative. And as a child, I think everyone is creative.
mm-hmm.
And slowly and but surely, you kind of choose your own path, and kind of that time comes when you kind of get serious about things, and you kind of have to understand what you want to do in life and everything. And that kind of struck me quite late. I mean, uh, I was always drawing. In
Mm-hmm.
childhood, I have been drawing from a very young age, and that's because of my father. I took inspiration from my father, whose hobby was kind of like painting. And since I was drawing from a very young age, I developed this art of sketching very quickly. But then I did it as an escapade. I didn't really think about like it can be a profession someday or the other.
Oh,
But I guess, and then I thought I would be going doing the bachelor's, master's in science. I would take up something like that, and just follow the herd. You
mm-hmm.
kind of have this mentality during class 9 and 10 that whatever gets me through, I'll keep going and doing that. But and that kind of was true for a long extent of time, until the board exams came, class 12 exams came, and I did fairly miserably along with a friend of mine.
Okay.
And then it kind of struck me that, oh, dude, what am I going to do now? The plan was to study science, but I don't think I'm going to succeed in that field. So then the other friend that did very miserably kind of came up to me and said, dude, there's this new course that people want to, in St. Xavier's, Kolkata, called the animation, that has animation in it. It's a multimedia course that has animation in it. And since he really wanted me to try for it, and both of us tried for it, both of us kind of got through it. And then began the journey into the field of animation. I kind of got something new. I latched onto something safe in terms of career for the next 4 years. And then also it kind of intrigued me, slowly began to intrigue me what this animation is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly and but surely, I kind of started, by the end of third year, I think I was very determined that I want to continue this for the rest of my life. And I want to be an animation filmmaker by then. And then I think after 4 years there, I did a PG course in NID, and NID came as a boon. It came as a second chance to relearn and redo all the without the mistakes that I had done in the first year. And in NID, I kind of started off early, and was sure never to make those same mistakes like last time. And I kind of took my work very seriously. And then it developed. I mean, as a creative individual, the environment plays a major role. So once you get a very creative environment and people to talk to and talk about, it kind of gets very interesting, and you want to just submit yourself into the creativity of the place.
Yeah, true. It was a very honest answer, and it's very true what you said, that all of us as a
Right.
child have so much creativity inside us, but it's
Right.
really sad to know that most of us lose it as we grow. So I really
But
hope that, yeah,
I'd say one thing that I mean, you don't necessarily need to be in the art field to be creative,
yeah,
right? I mean, you can be a mathematician, you can be a
yeah,
physics teacher, you can be a PT teacher, for God's sake, and be creative. Creativity is a lifestyle, I guess.
yeah.
I mean, you kind of adapt to that. You kind of adapted to different strokes of life, I guess.
Yeah, I totally agree with it. Talking about your work, it is very evident that you want to convey socio-political issues through your artworks and comics and animations. So,
Right.
why do you choose to address this specific topic?
I guess a part of it is coming from how I grew up. I mean, whatever we grow up watching or being in,
Hmm.
it's kind of intrinsic to our environment. Whatever we are today, we are because of whatever we have seen, whatever we have learned, whatever we have heard, right?
Yeah.
And the way we have been taught,
Hmm.
right? So our environment is very intrinsic to our psyche, per se. So our environment, which is mainly composed of society and the politics of society. Politics is not a heavy term, which I came to realize later in life.
Mm-hmm.
Politics is basically whenever there are two people interacting in a society, you have a politics. Whenever there is dialogue between two people. There is a certain kind of politics between the two
Yeah.
happening. So our society is all about dialogue. Whenever you want, a society can't function in a monologue. A work
Yeah.
can't be
True.
done in a monologue, right? Then it's dictatorship, absolutely.
Yeah.
Whenever there is dialogue, whenever two people are conversing, then it leads to some kind of synthesis, right? There is
Mm-hmm.
some kind of a outcome, and that outcome is our form of expression. How the outcome comes out is how we choose the two way. So one person can basically uh, draw, right,
Yeah.
in order to express the outcome of that particular synthesis or that particular dialogue. one person will write an essay or a book to express their opinion of that outcome of that synthesis, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whenever that happens, I guess in order to live in a society, you need to speak up in some way or the other. You don't need to necessarily open your mouth, but there has to be some form of dialogue. You understand?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
whenever that dialogue happens, then it leads to an outcome,
Mm-hmm.
and that outcome is your form of expression, right? So whatever I have been taking in and around me, whatever I have been listening, the way I've been brought up, it affects the way certain things kind of affect me,
Mm-hmm.
right? A bad news will affect me differently than you, right?
Yeah.
So it's completely what I take from the environment and what I express in return. It's completely, I guess, that kind of angle to it. So socio-political environment means whatever I have been seeing in terms of politics and whatever I've been seeing in terms of people and in terms of society might be like the major issues or might be the minor issues, like more
Mm-hmm.
individualistic between two people, or it can be me versus the world. So
Yeah.
all of those things kind of revolve around, and I kind of channelize it through to my work. That's how it comes out. It needs a kind of expression. You understand?
Yeah.
You just can't keep taking in stuff. It needs to have. I need to vent it out. So my
Mm-hmm.
art is kind of my expression of
Wow.
that.
Wow, great. That was a very different perspective, and I must say that I really love your videos, and I really feel it
Right.
is a very beautiful way to grab people's attention and make them aware about such
Sure.
serious topics. So really
Thank you.
appreciate that. Um,
Thank you.
your COVID-19 videos like that you recently posted on your social media account are
Right.
like I totally love them, and the sarcasm in those
Thank you.
videos just hit the right notes, and that's why I just want to know what were you thinking and how, like, we know a certain issue, but how, like, why did you think to portray it in that way, or to use your
Right.
animation skill in a certain way to convey that problem?
Right. I think the COVID-19 videos that series that I worked on, the Korona series,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of was a breakthrough in terms of my reach as an artist,
Yeah.
which is just almost funny because, I mean, I was laughing at the people. I was pointing a finger at and laughing at the society, and I was laughing at the people. And the
Yeah.
society kind of took that in and kind of praised them. So it's
Mm-hmm.
basically they're laughing at themselves, and uh, they're kind of taking me up there
Yeah.
because I'm kind of pointing a finger and laughing at them. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of funny in that sense. But yeah, I mean that those videos were basically a complete honest reaction to whatever was happening at that time
Mm-hmm.
in and around me. I mean, in terms of COVID, never in my and obviously till a very very long time. I'm not sure when was the last time the world was hit by such a pandemic of such huge scale.
Yeah.
I mean,
True.
literally the entire world has been affected by this pandemic, and it's very very sad and very weird at the same time that in 2020 we're kind of living to see a day like this where the entire world kind of comes together uh, on in one term, this corona.
Mm-hmm.
So 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 this becomes a collective, uh, automatically all the people kind of glue together with this term, and whatever news that we were hearing at that time, uh, I mean, firstly starting with all this fear mongering that these news channels were doing and
Mm-hmm.
people in general were doing. From there, when the frontline workers and the doctors kind of were sacrificing everything, and they still are. I mean, they were sacrificing everything to uh, be there for the people, and
Yeah.
they were not getting their necessary due. I mean, people were getting a pat on the back, but they were not getting their salaries. They were not getting enough exposure,
Mm-hmm.
right? So,
True. True.
so, so all of these things were kind of triggering me to vent out something. right?
Mm-hmm.
It was I was getting kind of infuriated, to be honest,
Yeah.
when I was seeing all this happening, and it's kind of getting annoying. And I decided that I will make one video uh, taking this Corona word into consideration. And then one thing led to the other, one video led to the other, and there was so much of input that was coming in from all these news channels and whatever was happening around me. That just the general panic in the people's minds about this crazy new disease. People were going bonkers, and that kind of gave me a lot of information to kind of work with, right?
Yeah.
So every week I was kind of working with something or the other,
Yeah.
and also the major thing that happened at that time was the migrant crisis,
Hmm.
and that was very very upsetting to see, and that was purely, I made that video purely out of uh, a very guilt of my guilt, I guess. I won't be able to put it in a better term than be brutally honest and say it was my personal guilt feeling when I
Oh.
was when I was watching the television, and I was like, this pandemic is not going to affect anything of mine, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm safe. I'm sitting down. I'm sitting in my own house. I'm having good food. I don't have to step out. I can do Swiggy and get some food on my table. But
Hmm.
but when I was watching turning on the TV and watching the news, I was filled with guilt.
Yeah.
When I was watching these people, these migrants, kind of walk millions of kilometers back to their home uh, because they have nowhere else to go, and I mean, that was really upsetting, and I don't want to get into that because that issue is still not solved. It's just not spoken about anymore
Hmm.
because that's kind of not trending anymore. So at that time, that migrant crisis was trending because it was new, and so I think the video went more viral at that time. But if I made that video right now, nobody would give a damn about it. This is
Yeah.
worse. This
Yeah.
is worse.
Actually, the topic that you choose is very important, and what time you choose it to release. So,
Yeah.
and Corona was a very obvious topic for you to
Right.
address. But like in normal days, how do you select a topic for to make your animations? Because like there are so many topics.
Right.
If you are trying to target like socio-political issues, there are so
Right.
many of them, like literally happening each day. So how do you
Right. Absolutely.
yeah, how do you choose your topic?
I mean, uh, I guess you kind of prioritize in terms of what you feel strongly about. It's never the audience. Let me make it clear to you. I don't work thinking about the audience. At least not when I don't need to. These are my personal films of self-expression, so I don't really uh, indulge in that. What will people say or what will people think? And think like that and make something. I kind of think whatever is going to hit me very strongly, I kind of take that topic and kind of make something on it.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
there, so nowadays I've kind of stopped making things because there's so much of like input every day. I don't
Hmm.
know what to choose really. I mean, if I talk about this, it's old, it's stale news tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense. Honestly, none of this makes any sense. But when I
Hmm.
did it, I thankfully kind of was very clear in my head that I'm going to talk about this and this and this. So
Yeah.
gladly I could make those set of videos at that time.
Great, great to know that. So, talking about your comics, now that you have made so many of them,
Right,
what are some like talking in arts perspective and animations perspective,
right,
to be specific, like what are some elements that make a comic stand out or make it more funnier?
right,
So like what are few things that artists should keep in mind, whoever is trying to make a comic, to make it,
right,
funnier, or to make it appealing to the audience?
right. I think traditionally comics or graphic novel or the word comic
Mm-hmm.
is original, and I think graphic novel is a word that we kind of use for comics to make it sound more serious, because nobody takes comics seriously, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
comics is just like a cartoon. The word cartoon is, you don't realize how important it is. You kind of downplay it, right? So comics kind of fall in between literature and art, right? It's image and text, and the way in the relationship how you play with word and text, text and image is
Mm-hmm.
how is your form of expression of that comic. So the text and image, that relation between that text and image is crucial for a comic book. I
Yeah.
think I think comic doesn't need to be funny. I mean, there are plenty of serious comics, and there are plenty of comics of different forms, right? I think people should focus on that relationship between text and image. That is the most
Mm-hmm.
crucial about making a comic book. And
Yeah.
I think I think the way I kind of make comics is depending completely depends on the subject matter. I kind of like using satire in my work, and
Yeah.
most of my work is kind of built around people and what they think, and I kind of use satire as a tool to like kind of mend it all together. So
Yeah.
that is like generally how I work. If I make a film also, I think I might put in satire if it fits, right? Uh, I mean, comics don't necessarily need to be full of satire. Comic book
Mm-hmm.
is it's how you choose to portray that relationship between text and image, to take up, to basically push your comics to the next level, right? And you don't need to be great at art. I mean, you don't need to be like Pablo Picasso anymore
Yeah.
to kind of say what you want, right? You can draw a line, and people might perceive it as a as just a line, or just maybe a rope, right? So it's how you play with people's perception by making that relationship between text and image stand out is what makes you a great artist, not the skill, the physical skill of drawing great or writing great, right? I think comics is kind of a great way of achieving that tonal understanding. I guess people don't need that tonal bit of information. You need to get it right. I mean,
Yeah.
when you're going through a piece of literature, you're feeling something, right? In that relationship between text and image, how you make that relationship great is when that person, when he's going through that comic, he feels something. So that tonal representation is very important in a comic book. I
Yeah.
think that's I think
Yeah.
it went on the heavy side, sorry,
No,
but
no, no,
uh,
it didn't. Like I was not expecting that, to be honest. Through this answer, it seems that you don't necessarily try to make your work humorous. So does
right,
that
right,
mean the sarcasm that your
right,
comics usually have, that comes
yeah,
naturally to you?
yeah. I guess I kind of understand that I am kind of a sarcastic, satiristic person, and that kind of comes out through my work also. I mean, it's just the way you are. I mean, you can't pretend when you're uh, making something.
Yeah.
Like when a singer sings, he can't until you're a ventriloquist, right? Until you're a ventriloquist, you don't need you can't fake your voice. You need to be totally honest
Yeah.
about what you do.
Hmm.
When is in the same way. I think making art or writing or in whatever way, I think you need to be very very honest
Yeah.
about what you are, how you are, and where you come from. You kind of have to be bold and very honest about your approach. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, true. And I hope that this suggestion will help a lot of artists out there. So, like moving away from the comics, you have also worked on a lot of animated movies and music videos, I guess.
Right,
So, when I checked out your work, I feel the recent ones are Mera Bhai and Cheetah, right?
right, right.
Yeah. So, What is the process that goes behind making such animated movies? So how is it different from the work that you do for yourself, like the videos that you make
Right.
and the comics that you make?
Right. I think more than the client, I mean, I'll come to that client factor as well.
Mm-hmm.
But more than the client, I think what's more important
Mm-hmm.
in any kind of work, and that's what dictates the style, is the narrative,
Yeah.
the story that we're
Yeah.
talking about. I think the
Mm.
story is what we're doing at the end of the day. Uh, we're trying to tell a kind of story, right? And everybody's way of telling stories is going to be different,
Yeah.
right? And I and you might not tell the same story about the same thing.
Ah,
Uh,
true.
so the way you're telling the story is what makes you a storyteller, and is what makes you different from the other storytellers, right? So
Yeah.
I think narrative is very intrinsic to the style that you kind of pick for some
Mm-hmm.
project. So, so if I'm talking about which, if I'm talking about Chitta and if I'm talking about Mera Bhai, right?
Yeah.
These two are client projects. I have worked with two different people. I worked with Pradeep for Chitta, and I
Mm-hmm.
worked with Divine for Mera Bhai.
Yeah.
But this is the client factor. A client wants, these guys want a certain story in a certain way, because when in their song also they're also telling stories, and they
Yeah.
would want
True.
their
Yeah.
story to come out very well.
Hmm.
And my job here is to tell their story in the best way possible,
Yeah.
right? So that's my job here. That's my primary job whenever a client is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
But if you see both the styles of Mera Bhai and Chitta, maybe you would see a very similar style, because this drawing, when I'm drawing, obviously one person draws like this and the other person draws like that, and it's going to be very similar. But when you see in in a tonal representation of the both,
Mm-hmm.
you will see the difference between the narratives. Both are very different stories, and both are
Yeah.
very different environments.
Yeah.
And with the way we have chosen to kind of do certain things is very intrinsic to the stories. Say, for example, in Chitta, the entire thing is black and white with spots of gold there,
Yeah.
because we wanted to focus on that gold color, because
Mm-hmm.
that is what very is very intrinsic to the story.
Mm-hmm.
That gold is the most important bit, and immediately when the audience watches, everything is mundane and everything is kind of grayscale. The world is grayscale, and you only spot that color in your eyes, and you want that color. It kind of creates an excitement in that. That's
Yeah.
the design of of Chitta. Whereas when you come to Mera Bhai, it's more of an environmental thing. When because it revolves around Divine's life story, and we had to kind of touch upon very important things in his life as well.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we are telling a fictional story, we kind of had to touch upon his life to create that authenticity, right? You need
Yeah.
that bit of authenticity and believability, because at the end of the day, whatever you're watching on video is just a bunch of drawings that are moving, right? It's just a sequence of drawings that you're seeing, and that that emotion that you have when watching that. Some like I've seen people cry watching. Like I myself have watched Disney films and cried, right? So,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, you need to realize that it's just drawings on a piece of paper. But
Mm-hmm.
how can that achieve, uh, like, how can that make you cry?
Yeah.
So, so I think that is the tonal representation that I'm talking about, and I think that is the magic of animation and drawing in general. I mean, the
Yeah.
pieces of a piece of painting can make people emote different things,
Yeah.
and which is amazing. I mean, you can't you can't really put it down on paper how this is getting affected, and
Mm.
that's, I think, is the beauty and the magic of what I do.
Yeah. Indeed, indeed. Um, just now you said that a certain artwork can be, you know, of a like different people can have different perspective towards a single art. So when you're
Right.
trying to work with clients, it might be possible that the client wants to show their story in a certain way, but you have some different plans
Yes,
to
absolutely.
convey. So how do you deal with such kind of situation?
I think there are only two ways of going about it. It's either their idea or mine. So, so it's kind of, it's also, that's what I was saying. If I kind of tie it back to that first question that you asked me, that second
Mm-hmm.
question,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about dialogue.
Yeah.
When you have, you and your client are having a dialogue, and that kind of leads you to a synthesis, right? And
Hmm.
that synthesis decides your expression, which is the work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it depends from client to client. I mean, if I'm obviously I won't be to an extent a client is the same for me, but they're also humans. They're also people. They also emote differently. So I would be, when I'm talking to them, I would have a different dialogue from the other person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So definitely, that person might agree entirely to my idea, or I might agree entirely to their idea, or we might both sit down and cook up a midway between the
Yeah.
two. So it kind of, all these things I feel that they can't be put under on piece of paper. All of these things need to be experienced. All of these,
Yeah.
you need to actually have interactions with people to understand people.
Hmm.
I think that's very subjective.
Okay.
It happens every time. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
But but the outcome of it is very different for different clients.
Okay.
Say for example, for Chitta and Mera Bhai also, when I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
Since these are the recent projects that I worked on,
Mm-hmm.
so both these clients were very different in their thought process, but they both rap. Both
Mm-hmm.
are like great. They want to tell something. One story was about the outer world, the outer conflict, the
Mm-hmm.
socio-political environment. That was Chitta.
Mm-hmm.
The second story, Mera Bhai, was very more of an inner conflict with the self conflict that was happening. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I needed to find a way to mold that narrative uh, for each of their requirements, right?
Yeah.
It can't be that what I say is going to be an end all and be all about the work. Obviously, since that person has written the song and has sung it, and he wants things a certain way, I can't just come out and say that I'm going to make a Red Riding Hood story on this, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's all dialogue, I guess, and what comes
Got
out of
it.
it, I can't really put it down on paper.
Okay.
It's
Got it.
kind of needs to be experienced. Yeah.
Got it. So, you have done a lot of projects till now, like the music videos that recently came out,
Right.
uh, the comic videos, and there are like so many stuff. So,
Right.
which among these projects, like while doing it, you had most fun? And like, what is your favorite animation in your portfolio that you have done till now?
My favorite animation in my portfolio. This is a very, very difficult question that I
I
can't
know.
answer. I mean, to an extent, I think it's good to value your work. It is very important to value your work.
Mhm.
But I mean, you don't fanboy over your own work, right? So you don't necessarily sit down and think that, oh, this project is better than, because like I said, every project is I kind of make it a habit, and I kind of make sure that every project that I do is kind of different from the other, or every
Yeah.
series that I make is kind of different from the other,
Mhm.
because only because that I don't want to deal with this conflict later on. That, oh, did I? If all projects were the same, then it would be very easy for me to pick which was the best of the lot. But
Yeah.
they're all from different lots, right?
Yeah.
And speaking about different things, and
Yeah.
I think the work that makes uh, uh, what makes a work great is the way it communicates to
Mhm.
an audience, right? I think the field of visual communication is
Mhm.
basically, the word comes from communication, right? I mean, the how you're communicating visually, and the better you communicate visually, a piece of work is kind of resonates more with the audience. So
Hmm.
I think in
True.
that term, I think the Korona series has been quite successful in terms of making people feel bad about themselves, and and then
And
so
laughing
I
about.
think yeah, that's quite success. That's a quite successful series. One of the most successful series that I've worked until now. Yeah.
Okay, great. What do you think are the mistakes that you did when you started off as an artist and you feel that you should not have, like, maybe you could have done things in a different way?
I think I made a career choice very late in my life.
Okay.
That's the mistake I was talking about. I
Hmm.
think when I entered the course in Xavier's,
Mm-hmm.
it was great. I mean, I had everything, but I never really took animation that seriously until the third year arrived,
Hmm.
and then I got a knack into things, and then I realized I just lost 2 years in my life, and that's
Hmm.
the feeling that I really, really don't enjoy having.
Hmm.
Like when you
Hmm.
lose time and you're right in like when you can see that you've lost so much of time and you kind of start regretting your actions, the
Hmm.
past actions that you've made, you obviously don't like that feeling. But then again, I'd like to point out one more thing, that when I said that I kind of regretted not having started early, I was not doing, not necessarily, it's not necessary that I wasn't doing anything. I was doing
Hmm.
other stuff. I was dancing.
Yeah.
And I took that very seriously at that time. So, so no matter what you do, I mean, you have to, this is what I take away from, this is the lesson that I take away from my past actions, is that when you do something, you do it to the best of your abilities, and you do it with complete honesty, no matter
Hmm.
what you're doing. Even if you're lazing around or just lying down, just do it well. Just when you're lazing around, just don't think about work at that time, right?
Yeah.
So so I think when you're doing something, you need to do it with complete honesty and just attack it, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the only. Just think of it like that's the only chance you're gonna get. I was lucky to get admitted in NID, right?
Yeah.
And what if I didn't? Then
Hmm.
I don't know what I'd be doing right now. Maybe I'd be starting from scratch again,
Yeah.
right? So so whenever you're getting a chance to do something, do it to the best of your ability. Do it very honestly, so that and don't think about the result. It doesn't matter what the result is when you
Hmm.
know that you've done it to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
So I think that's the most important lesson.
Yeah. And anyways, it's better late than never, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, lastly, I would just like to ask you one thing, that you have worked on a lot of projects and we discussed
Right.
about that as well. But do
Right.
you have any dream project in your mind that you want to do in future?
Oh, so many, so many. Like,
So,
I would work. I want to make a game. I want to make a feature film. I want to make
okay.
a bunch of short films. I want to do so many things. I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, I want to make a VR project. I want to maybe make a toy. So, I want to become a chef. I don't know. I really, I from
Okay.
this time, I can't really pinpoint and say that these things are what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But there are certain aspirations that you have as an artist, and you want to do certain things, and those goals are yours to keep, right?
Yeah.
You don't. You might discuss about it. You might not discuss about it because it what you say really doesn't matter. You have to do it at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I can have a bag full of dreams,
Mm-hmm.
but if I don't start ticking it off the list one by one,
Yeah.
then who's going to do it for me? I'll have to do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, there's no one dream project. There are multiple dream projects that I want to do, and I want to
Mm.
do them fast because I have a finite life, and I don't want to think about all that now. I just want to keep doing.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah. Maybe you are doing your dream project right now. You never
I don't
know.
know.
You
Yeah,
are,
maybe,
yeah, you are on the way to do it.
probably.
So,
I might get an idea after after this podcast is live.
yeah, yeah, true. So, the whole conversation that we had was very interesting. You like told me a lot of different perspectives, and I am sure that our audience are also going to get a lot out of this conversation. But
Right. I hope so too.
yeah, But to if I ask you that if there's any specific advice that you want to give to the fellow budding artists who want to make it big in the world of animation and design, so
Right.
like what advice would you like to give them?
I think I'd say it a little broadly because it doesn't matter which field you're in. I think
Yeah.
wherever you are, you need to be very proactive. I
Mm-hmm.
mean that is very important. As an individual, I think you need to be very proactive and just like I was saying, that attack things on the first go. Like you
Mm-hmm.
don't get any other chance later on.
Mm-hmm.
Attack things on the first go and attack it with full honesty. Not you don't have to be a 90% kid, right?
Yeah.
You even if you're a 30% kid, attack it with that full 30% honesty,
Mm-hmm.
right? Attack
Yeah.
that 30% with full 100% of honesty. I
Mm-hmm.
think that is very important. And I think some people, some artists especially, take it very hard on themselves, in the basis of they're not doing great, or they're not doing well enough, and they have a long, long way to go. I'm sure even Van Gogh thought that they have a long way to go,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But I think what you need to realize is taking a break is very important,
Mm-hmm.
especially in a creative field. You need to take breaks regularly. You need to
Mm-hmm.
make it a habit of taking breaks. You need to cheat. You need to cheat your routine.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not, I just told you that you have to give your 100% in everything and be proactive. But when you're not, utilize that time to take a break and give that time to family, give that time to doing other stuff that you enjoy, give that time to others, right?
Mm-hmm.
That will give you, that will lead to more interactions and you
Mm-hmm.
will build up more stories and you'll come back with a very refreshed mind, right?
Yeah.
And when you come back with a very refreshed mind to your work, you will have new perspectives, newer
Mm-hmm.
perspectives. And
Yeah.
the time that it took you to make 30 seconds of animation, you'll do it after you return. After that break, you'll do it in half that time. I'm
Yeah.
sure that is going to work. I think taking breaks is very important. Also, working honesty. Honesty is
Mm-hmm.
the other most important thing that I want to tell people about.
Great, great. So glad that I had this conversation with you. I personally got motivated a lot and I got to know about a lot of things. And
Amazing.
yeah, so yeah.
Hope you liked our show. You can give your valuable feedback and suggestion of speakers you would like us to host next by writing us on www.artdown.store. Stay tuned to our channel as we are going to come up with brand new episodes every week on Friday. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Spotify. See you soon.